Well, the comeback fell just short. 132-97 was the final score for the Toronto Raptors against the Philadelphia 76ers. They are now eliminated from the playoffs in 6 games. Hello and welcome to Raptors. Today I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will be joining us a little bit later. Now, just as a heads up, guys, this is our initial feelings, our initial reactions. We're going to be hearing a little bit from the team today as well, but we're going to have a bit more of a thorough breakdown for the season coming next week. So Jonesy, I'm going to start with you. Kind of give me your thoughts on this series and kind of what the conclusion has been here for the Raptors.
Look, I thought the Raptors got kind of everything they wanted when you think about holistically from an organizational standpoint. They get a 48-win season. Not sure anybody saw that coming. And then they get a full playoff series, the full playoff experience, not having to go through the play-in. And you're going up against an MVP type. And it's always one of those where the young players, they've got to learn. And how do you learn? You have to go through it. So I think about the experience and how valuable it was for Gary Trent Jr. and for Scotty and for Precious, and how even in new roles, it was a valuable experience for people like Pascal and Fred. I love the way the team competed, but not that I should be surprised. They competed like that all year. I really liked watching Nick kind of make the moves with this team to get them to understand the full depth of playoff basketball. And then they experienced the other stuff too, the travel, the adjustments, the swings, the home crowd energy, all of those things. And in the end though, Savannah, the way it came up with a loss, this probably leaves a bad taste in their mouth, which is not all that terrible. Nope. Because it will motivate you. It will motivate you for next summer. When you go through those summer workouts, this is what you're thinking about. Losing in game 6, 132-97, not getting a switch or making a shot or taking the ball to the basket with that force. All of those things go into shaping of a great player and a great team. And that's why they always say the NBA is a league where you have to lose before you win. So, yes. I think the Raptors got everything they wanted out of the series. And I think it was terrific for them. And it was great to have playoff basketball back at Scotiabank Arena and the fans lifting the lid and everything that is, quote, normal again, unquote, that we missed the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely. Well said. And in the great words of head coach Patrick Mutombo from the 905, he said, winning hides a lot of stuff. So you have to learn through those losses. And when you have such a young roster, that's the only way that they can learn. It's going to motivate them, like, as you said, over the summertime, over the off season to come back even stronger. And what I really like what you touched on as well, Jones, is the fact that Fred VanVleet was in a new role as a leader, right? It was just a season ago. Yeah. Kyle Lowry was the leader of this team. Pascal Siakam had to step up to another level that we saw him step up to. And that's all learning, and mistakes will be made. And of course, we have the rookie of the year in Scotty Barnes, who also is inevitably still a rookie, even though we hold him to a higher standard. It feels like at most times. But Sherm, what do you make of the series and the season concluding?
Well, I'll go back to after the All-Star break and when the Raptors lost those 2 games badly right out of the break, and then they figured it out and they started to play some really good basketball. Talk about ramping up for the playoffs. They did a great job of that and kind of took their own destiny into their own hands and got out of the play-in situation and firmly planted themselves in the playoff picture. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of understanding. There's a lot of, ways to challenge yourself and figure out how you can be what you need to be for this team. And I thought individually, they all went through it. Collectively, they saw each other go through it. And there's a certain amount of camaraderie and understanding about what is capable through that stretch from post-All-Star. But I'll look at it also from an organizational standpoint. You think about the investment that they've made in these young players, in this team, and even in guys like Fred and Pascal who have come through the system. The organization got a real good look at these guys in terms of what they're able to do, in a situation where they needed to do some big things to get out of the playing picture. The organization got to see who could step up, who could be consistent, who could make big plays in big moments, who could defend at a high level. And it really allowed the organization to see each individual piece on their own and then see them as a collective unit to move into the offseason to understand what needs to be done to address making this roster better. So we talk about players and they've gained a lot, coaches have gained a lot, but also I think, when you look at it from a projection and moving forward and trying to build on it, the organization got a really good look at what they feel either stays, either is valuable and can be used as a commodity to bring a piece in or two, or what you need to continue to, in an organic way, build over the offseason and challenge. So there's just a lot of learning, a lot of positives, I think, coming out of that All-Star break into the end of the season, into the playoff run. I just think that there's just a lot of learning that occurred, which is going to benefit this team and this organization moving forward.
Now, Sherm, Nick Nurse talked a lot about how he really wanted this young team to get playoff experience, and they did it. They missed the play and they actually surpassed it, which I think they surpassed a lot of expectations across the league in that sense. How do you think guys like Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa can build off of this series and take what they learned and apply it to the next season?
Well, just to touch on what you said about missing the play in, both Scotty and Precious had a big part to doing that for the Raptors to be able to get solidly into the playoff picture. I think when you're talking about these two guys, what I think they gain most about is just the reps, being in that environment, that high pressure possession by possession situation, and actually being allowed to play through some mistakes in those situations. You've got to develop confidence. You've got to get an understanding of belonging and knowing that not only can I compete, I can succeed in this environment. And both of them, I feel, did succeed in the playoffs. So I think it's great growth for them. And, when you talk about being able to be a part of something that is trending towards a positive, I thought both of them had key moments when the Raptors needed them to play big during this playoff run, that they were big. They stepped up to the moment. And understanding that our mistakes are a part of it, but getting through it. And, the bounce back factor we talk about, Scotty all season long, you rarely saw him make the same mistake twice. He saw it, he learned from it, he reacted differently the next time he was presented. Precious Achiuwa, bit of a different route, but he got so much better throughout the course of this season, understanding and respecting what he needed to stay away from and what he could fully commit to at times on the floor. So the growth was there. Then you ramp it up in the playoffs and say, need to see another level. And I thought both of them did a great job of doing that. And you get to go into the summer, as you both have talked about, figuring out from an organizational standpoint what they want you to improve on. But also you've got this garnered knowledge to understand why you need to improve on it, how you need to go about improving on it. And that, to me, that experience is the neck up improvement that you get. That, they can work on the physical part of their game all day, but the experience allows them to look at it mentally differently and approach it from that perspective. And that's where they're going to, I think, learn and gain ground in leaps and bounds. So I thought they did a great job as young players, and that's ultimately what you want. You want your young players tested and get those reps in those high pressure situations. And the Raptors got that at least in a few games in the first round for Scotty and Precious.
Yeah, because playoff basketball is a much different level of physicality, or, calls maybe not being called the way that you would want versus a regular season. So I'm pretty sure that they took something away from there, and now they can think about that when they are in their off-season training as well. But Jonesy, for you, Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, like, they've shown a lot of growth in their own games, and I don't think we give them enough flowers sometimes for it. But when Fred VanVleet was out, Pascal Siakam, he was like much more counted on. How much has he grown in his leadership role in comparison to previous seasons?
Savannah, it's interesting you say that, and that's a great point, because we get used to, we're so, it's like the family. Everybody pays attention to the baby. Everybody's, Scotty and Gary Trent and whatever. And by the way, there are big brothers and big sisters that do stuff in the family. And a lot of that falls to Fred and Pascal. And they are the guys that were the babies when Mark and Serge and Kyle and Kawhi and all of these other players were helping get the team to a championship. They were part of it too, but now they've stepped into that role. And you look at Pascal, he had a tough game 3. And boy, since then, and again, it's the thing that I always say, and I've been told, it happens to a player and it upsets them so much, they kind of pound their fist in the table and say, that's never going to happen again. And I look at Pascal's leadership over the last few games, everything that he did, the scoring, the rebounding, the ball handling, just trying to be the leader in whatever way the team needed. He didn't shy away from it. He didn't try to pass it or defer to somebody else. No, I'm the guy making $35 million. I'm going to lead the charge here. So I love what I saw from him. And let's throw all the numbers out of it. Let's take the emotional part of it, the heart, the mental part of it, the thinking. Those are things that I think are, to me, that are things that stand out, and what Pascal has to continue to do to establish himself as the leader. And he usually has a co-pilot in Fred. Didn't have Fred in the last few games, but don't tell me Fred didn't get something from the first few games that he was in it. And we saw how upset Fred was that he wasn't going to get that opportunity to keep doing it. So both of those two guys, I know we centered on Pascal, but both of them are really important. You can't forget the contributions of your main guys going forward while just looking at the development, because there's development for them too. It's like us. Hey, we're getting older. We still have hopes and dreams. You still want to get to a certain spot, develop and do things. And my hat's off to Pascal and to Fred in that instance.
It's a different level of responsibility when you are, either the second or third star on a team versus the first star on the team, and having to carry the team on your back, it may feel like at times, and have that pressure and own it and embrace it. So, it's something that definitely stood out to me with Fred VanVleet, kind of taking ownership of this series as well when he could. And that didn't mean that the games always went the way that he wanted it to, or Pascal's way that he wanted it to either, but that's all growth. And you saw that switch, coming game 3, game 4, and game 5, that's why they pushed it to a 6-game series. So that's a whole learning curve for them. But Sherman, back to you again, because I want to make sure that we give friend of the show, Chris Boucher, some flowers here, because he had just an incredible game 6.
Yeah, Chris Boucher, I mean, we're talking about growth. How much did he grow over the course of this season? He was unbelievable in terms of accepting, understanding, and fulfilling his role. Early in the season, had a bit of an injury issue, came back and really tried to force himself into games in terms of looking for his offense, just looking to shoot the 3, looking to make the home run play on the defensive end. And I say this, and I don't know this, but I feel like a conversation was had. There was a discussion about how Chris could be the most impactful player coming off the bench for this team. And he might not have liked what he heard, but he accepted it. And I think that Chris Boucher, his maturity, his understanding that I want to play, I want to be a part of this, I got to do what I have to do. And this is what's asked of me, I'm going to get it done. And he just came into this space of understanding how he could be the most effective player for this team. How did he do it? He started with the energy. He was relentless in terms of his multiple efforts, in terms of his knack on the glass, moving into space, cutting, chasing down rebounds. He did so many intangible things that it kept him on the floor to do the things like shoot the 3, to do the things like be the recipient of backdoor cuts or get his offensive opportunities. Because he was able to do all of that, he became a player that was such an integral piece to their success coming off the bench. And at one point, I would argue he was the only consistent piece that Nick Nurse could go to off the bench and understand he was going to get a certain level of play. And as we know, Nick struggled with this bench throughout courses of the season. So I just think that Chris Boucher has done a great job. And let's not forget, it's a contract year for the young man.
Yeah.
So what better year is it to play the way that he did and to show that he could do a myriad of things to help a team win games, and then just put a little cherry on the cake with a big double-double to end his season. So I tip my hat to him. He did a great job. He was such a vital piece of their success throughout the season. And, you got to respect the guy who's taken the path he's taken to get into this league, to stick in this league, and to carve out a space that he can stay around in this league. Chris Boucher did a great job this season.
Boucher is out here playing chess over here. But I will say this, that he's a really strong sixth man off the bench when he could start very easily on other teams throughout the league. But that he brings so much value and that extra spark. And you're right, he's brought such a consistency to the Raptors, and that's just invaluable to them as well. But now we're going to hear from the guys themselves.
Well, like to start off saying that, this organization is elite, like one of the top I've ever been a part of. Amazing from day one, me coming here. Toronto, the city, the fans, another amazing, source and opportunity. And, I loved everything about, this experience. But, as far as the team is, the sky's the limit for every individual on this team, for the simple fact of, like, I think we have a good mixture of, like, young guys with some veteran guys, and obviously, like, me being the elder statesman, just, this team can be really, really scary. You seen what we were able to do, and almost able to kind of overcome, a huge deficit, but the one thing about this team is its will, its fight, continue to be resilient, fight through adversity, speaks volume to, like, the character of everybody on this team.
Yeah, I think as the season went on, we got better and better with it. At first, we were unsure a little bit on the court of, like, where to go, where people would be. But as the year went on, we definitely got better. And guys, like, just got used to the roles and figured out where they need to be, and then just started getting better and better as the year went on. Do I see myself as a mentor to them? Yeah. I guess, yeah. Like, if they have a question or need some advice, I'll give them advice, answer their question. So
Do you see yourself as that person?
As a mentor?
Yeah.
If you want me to. Do you want me to be? If you want me to be a mentor, I'll be a mentor. I'm a mentor, yeah. I'll be a mentor.
And we're now going to head over to Amy Audibert.
Savanna, thank you so much. I know it's very painful, but let's look into the second round matchups. And yes, it is way too soon, but the first one we're going to start off with is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat. And this one's quite interesting. They did split the regular series 2-2. You have to believe this is once again going to come down to the health of Joel Embiid and that right ligament issue in his thumb. However, Philadelphia also shot the three ball really well, as we know, against the Raptors. The Heat have to be feeling pretty good at what this looks like, though, because Bam Adebayo is going to have a tough task, but he's a great defensive player. We know the growth. We know what Kyle Lowry brings to the playoffs alongside Jimmy Butler. And if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero can really get hot and going, the Heat have to feel good about what their depth looks like in this matchup. And now one of the more intriguing second round matchups, it's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. Milwaukee is a physical team, and they'll probably look to extend if this series gets into 6 or 7, just bully ball and bang around Boston. Well, the Celtics are elite in terms of their skill set. They've got a bunch of really talented players. Of course, we can talk about health a little bit. Chris Middleton for the Bucks has been diagnosed with a grade 2 MCL sprain, and he's expected to miss this series. For Boston, Jaylen Brown had some hamstring tightness at the end of their first round series, so we're curious to see what he looks like in this matchup. Boston also brings Defensive Player of the Year Marcus Smart and the return of Robert Williams onto their roster, so they have to be a little bit excited to try to match some physicality. But with all that being said, this is a Giannis and Jason Tatum matchup. These are two of some of the top, brightest stars in this league, and I absolutely cannot wait to watch them go head to head. And now let's head over to the West Conference for a second round matchup between Phoenix and Dallas, where both teams probably pretty happy to have their stars back. Both teams have to come into this one feeling a bit of momentum. Dallas suffered 6 consecutive first round exits, so they're probably thrilled to be in the second round and, of course, having Luka back and ready to go. And how about Phoenix in their Game 6 win to clinch their first round? They shot 60% from the field. Chris Paul went 14 for 14. And this one's going to be all about committee. We obviously know Devin Booker and Chris Paul. How about DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix, those big three? And how about for Dallas? We know about Luka, Jalen Brunson, and maybe their X factor, Dorian Finney-Smith, an elite two-way player. This is going to be an exciting one. And don't forget, Golden State's waiting on the final result between Memphis and Minnesota, where Memphis has a 3-2 lead. That'll also be a very exciting second-round series.
Now, the offseason begins for the Toronto Raptors. It's a time to recoup, recharge, get back into the gym, get back to the drawing board. So, Jonesy, I'm going to ask you this. What are you most looking forward to next season?
See what everybody comes out of the lab with this summer, Savanna. And as you said, working on their game. And then how it fits together, how they fit with one another, how Nick gets it to fit together, and their mental attitude at the start of the season. You know, you don't get to start in the 6th seed next year. You got to go back down the mountain and climb up and pick up all the rocks on the way up till you get to the top. And don't let the success of this year taint the start of next year. Do it properly, the same way you did this year. Everybody's starting from the same spot.
Absolutely. And I think from my perspective, covering the 905 so closely, I get to see just how impactful a lot of the guys that are on the bench are. And I think that this offseason is a great opportunity for them to grow and to prove to Nick Nurse that they're putting in the work and to maybe even carve themselves out a spot in the rotation next season. So I'm looking forward to who that could be, who's going to take that leadership there. But Sherm, what are you most looking forward to next season?
Well, both of you talked about the players and made good points. I'll go with the organization thing again. I think, you know, seeing what they feel needs to be added, subtracted, you know, how they feel these pieces moving forward can operate and have success. I'm really interested to see, you know, what the big picture looks like and the short-term adjustments that are made to get to that big picture. So, you know, what Masai and Bobby decide to do in terms of personnel is going to be very interesting to me to kind of address some of the things that they struggled with this year and maybe firm up or solidify some things that they were good at that they could be better at. It's going to be an interesting offseason, both player-wise and management-wise.
Well, no more games left in this season, so I'm looking forward to next season. But don't forget that we will have a season recap next week. From myself, Savanna Hamilton, Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, Amy Audibert, and Jake and Garth. Thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.